the brand new MG S5 EV we already presented to you in a classic review with a detailed test drive. If you missed the video, feel free to check the video description where I'll put the link for you. Building on that, today we want to focus on the consumption. First, a short trip through the city, a short trip on country roads, but mainly on the highway at 100, 120, 140, 160 kilometers per hour. Let's find out. Oh, whether it might even be a solid option as a compact electric SUV equipped with a medium-sized battery to perform efficiently on medium and long-distance trips. We also test the travel comfort, the assistance systems, and the 10 to 80% charging process. I'd say we don't beat around the bush. You check if you're part of the Drive Electric community. If not, we'd be thrilled if you supported us with your subscription. And now let's dive into the range test and charging check of the MG S5 EV. We set off with the MG S5 EV on our test route, the A20 highway, which we mostly drove north on to share with you the consumption figures based on the onboard computer at a steady speed of 100 kilometers per hour throughout the entire duration of the drive. 120, 140, 160 kilometers per hour average speed. But before we arrive, we'll also check the consumption while driving through New Brandenburg. Measure 7 kilometers of city traffic, and then from New Brandenburg to the highway, cover another 7 kilometers overland to get a clear idea of its consumption in urban and rural conditions. Today, we've got a spring-like 17 degrees Celsius, which suits my build perfectly, to be honest, and feels just right for the season. We've got summer tires fitted here, sized at 18 inches.
Rims. Nice Bridgestone tires with a size of 225/45, offering great performance.
No, 55.
Oh, 55, that's my bad.
Yes, 18, exactly. So that we actually don't have such narrow soles on here.
Only subtly influenced, of course, by the wheel design itself, to be honest.
Exactly, so we managed to achieve good values. We're always switching back and forth with and without the AC running. I had already mentioned in the review we prepared for you that the air conditioning control of the automatic climate system here always requires a bit of individualization because it can occasionally be too cold or too warm for the driver. I'd recommend taking another look at the first video we did on that topic. I've also linked that for you in the video description so you have a good starting point there. There, you'll get all the information, including technical data for the MG S5 EV. And yes, I'll show you again the driving modes we have. We can assign them here with the quick select button Normal, Sport, Зрение и также Комфорт, Снег и Custom. But we're driving in normal because we're normal. Do I see the town entrance of New Brandenburg there?
Yes, indeed. We've got a green light.
Yes, that's definitely an advantage. That means we'll naturally reset the onboard computer here together with you right at the town entrance sign. We've done that now. Here in New Brandenburg, you can drive at 60 kilometers per hour in many areas. And of course, we'll continue to follow the traffic regulations here as we always do. To add a bit more context, the MG S5 EV is essentially the direct successor to the MG ZS EV.
That was, I believe, also the first one from MG that we had back then.
Exactly, a nice car. I also thought the dimensions were just right. And MG, as with all their vehicles, consistently offers some of the most attractive and competitive leasing and financing options available, where I can only recommend you not to always focus on the gross list prices. It starts in the base version with a smaller battery pack from 37,099 euros. Here we have the long range with not 47.1 kilowatt hours net, but 62.1 kilowatt hours net and the slightly larger motor on the rear axle, where you get 231 horsepower instead of 170, with 350 Newton meters of torque built in. It should accelerate from 0 to 100 in 6.3 seconds and reach a top speed of 190 kilometers per hour. We'll obviously try that out together with you later on. No need to worry at all. We can already make out the town exit sign up ahead in the distance, so we're getting pretty close now. And yes, Stefan covered 7.2 kilometers at an average speed of 45 kilometers per hour with a consumption of 8.2 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers driven. Kilometers achieved. We'll now reset the onboard computer together because we're heading onto country roads about 7 kilometers until the highway to see how it goes, how the consumption develops on country roads. But if you project this now with these low consumption values at 18 degrees Celsius here at the end of August, then even this WLTP consumption figure could potentially be, I saw something like over 600 kilometers city range, which could even be achievable with a fully charged battery.
Yes, roughly speaking, that's entirely achievable indeed.
And then the MG S5 EV would also be very interesting for street parkers who maybe don't have the option to charge at home, because they could then while they're shopping, perhaps charge the car once a week for half an hour, and in that way they can also quite comfortably achieve their commuting range for the week. So this is genuinely, in my opinion, a very, very interesting figure, and respect to the MG S5 EV for such city consumption. We made it at least up to the A20 highway, and we've arrived here without any issues. We drove 7.3 kilometers from Neubrandenburg out of town here, averaging 58 kilometers per hour. We had a consumption of 9.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers driven. That's quite substantial, isn't it?
Under 10, awesome, yes.
So with that, the MG here is performing really, really well at 18, 19 degrees over land and through the city. And that should indeed give us a certain level of optimism, especially when hitting the highway. At an average speed of 60, 75, 85, 100 miles per hour, hopefully achieving similarly interesting values. We've arrived on the A20 highway, heading north towards Kreiswaldstraße, and we're going to reset the onboard computer together with you to determine the fuel consumption over the next 20 kilometers at an average speed of 60 miles per hour. We'll measure and share the results with you as we go along, so stay tuned to see how it all turns out during this interesting test drive. I'm really curious, do you have any tips, Stefan, on which way we should go?
I'd say somewhere around 18.5. No idea. No, I don't believe that's the case.
Let's wait and see. For a solid electric car in 2025, you'd certainly expect at least optional top-notch assistance systems to be included as a key feature. The MG, which performs exceptionally well with its MG pilot system. We've already had the chance to demonstrate that in several MG models. Somehow, we're not managing today to activate the steering assistant here in this specific MG S5 EV. We've got all the necessary functions right here in the onboard computer, so to speak, to activate and enable within the system settings itself. But we don't even have a steering assist. The only thing we have is a cruise control with distance regulation. That maintains the speed relative to the vehicle in front. We also don't have adaptive speed adjustment, which means when traffic signs change, it doesn't just display the speed but also adjust it accordingly, but also transfers it to the onboard computer, either with or without button confirmation. He didn't have any of that. The only feature we've got here is a cruise control system with distance regulation, which ensures we maintain a safe distance from the vehicle in front of us at all times. Yes, it's a shame this can't be shown differently in our subject today, unfortunately. I think, though, that the MG Pilot will hopefully be fully available in this vehicle in the future, because, of course, that would then be a really convenient option. Just to also make traveling on medium and long distances with the MG S5 EV even more comfortable with partial autonomous assistance. And as always, much of it was due to user error. Naturally, we were the ones to blame once again. So I held down the steering wheel button for a really long time after I went through all the menus, all the submenus. I thought there were only two options, either the locking button or holding down the steering wheel button for a really long time. And now the steering wheel symbol has appeared here as well, and it ensures that we're really precise. Stefan, show this with the camera. Even in curves in the middle of the track, it works flawlessly. We're kept perfectly in the center of the lane. Unfortunately, we don't have capacitive steering wheel controls in this particular setup. That means you don't necessarily have to keep 3 fingers on the steering wheel, but you always need to give it a slight turn to demonstrate that you're actively paying attention. Yes, unfortunately, the system doesn't have a lane change assist yet, but when I use the turn signal, it naturally makes the lane available so I can manually initiate the lane change. Now it locks in again once I'm back in the lane, just as expected, and I knew I could always count on MG's reliability, and we've known the MG Pilot for, I'd say, what feels like 4 or 5 years.
Yes, absolutely.
And consequently, it's also in the new MGS 5 EV, of course, and you see, sometimes you just have to try things out and play around a little to really understand how it works. And then the semi-autonomous assistance works again. We've recorded our first consumption value, so we drove 21.4 kilometers at an average speed of 97 kilometers per hour according to the onboard computer, and achieved a consumption of 15 or now 14.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers driven, which is quite efficient for this type of vehicle. Yeah, that's a decent value. 14.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers driven, Stefan, right? Yeah.
I was pretty far off with my 85, huh?
Yeah, it's clearly lower. I've now set the adaptive cruise control to 120 kilometers per hour, and I'm resetting the onboard computer right now. That's done because we obviously want to determine the consumption value again over the next 20 kilometers. Yes, we're definitely curious to see later. We've already tested some compact electric SUVs with you, so we'll see how it compares in our consumption charts. But the first result, at least, is definitely positive.
Yes, very nice indeed.
And if you extrapolate that a bit, you should reach 61.1 kilowatt hours net for our long-range battery at full charge. And if you really push it to the very last bit, you should be able to cover approximately 400 kilometers.
Yeah, that'd actually be quite good.
Respect. For a good electric car nowadays, I also think by now a decent voice control is essential, and along with that, maybe also a charging plan in addition to route planning. Especially when you take the luxury variant from MG, then the navigation system also includes the charging plan along with the route planning. We naturally want to test that as always because the manufacturers can promise us a lot. And we'll test that out by saying, hey MG, navigate us to Munich, to Victualien Markt 1, if you wouldn't mind. Well, as you can see, you're not seeing anything at all. It's kind of... Well, it's a bit alarming, I have to be honest with you, because it was exactly the same during the review as well. So we've got Munich. Is it even still included? Well, Manuel also selected it, and we're now doing a route calculation for Manuel. What's really handy is that you can even set the exact number of kilometers you want to have remaining when you arrive at your destination, which is a pretty useful feature to have and quite convenient. You have several different route options that you can choose from here, and then you'll also need to add it in again to fully confirm your selection. Yeah, but somehow it doesn't locate the loading plan. We couldn't find it during the review either. Even when we checked the settings section, it's just not appearing as expected. And that's really, really a shame because we definitely have the luxury variant here. But as you can see, it doesn't really handle any load planning at all, which is quite disappointing given the features we were expecting. It's possible we're dealing with another user error, but we've gone through all the menus, searched thoroughly, and checked every single option available to us. But he doesn't seem to locate any charging station at all, even when I attempt to do it manually myself. And even if I could select specific charging providers in the submenu for my charging plan, it still doesn't show any available options or suggestions at the moment, which is quite frustrating. Charging providers, so I'm guessing that there might still be. A software update needed at some point to finally make that feature work properly. But we also checked, and the car apparently already has the latest software installed, so for now we're clueless, speechless, and pretty much powerless because naturally we always want to show you guys what's actually possible, what the car can actually do, but we can only show you what's happening in this car by late August 2025 at the moment. And if it's not possible, then we can't show it to you either. we've managed to calculate the next consumption value. We were consistently driving at 120 kilometers per hour, 20.3 kilometers or 4 kilometers long, 116 kilometers per hour was the average speed, and the consumption was 20.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometer. Yes, that is of course now a noticeable increase, but it happened quite often. With electric SUVs, they increased in 5 kilowatt-hour increments, typically ranging from around 20 kilometers per hour. It surprised me a bit. I was honestly hoping we'd end up settling around 18 or so.
Yeah, I was also kind of hoping for around 18.5.
Yeah, that it would at least reach the 120 mark.
Yeah, that's right.
But he somehow didn't quite manage to pull it off. Yeah, that's just the way things ended up happening. Of course, we set the adaptive cruise control to a fixed speed of 140 kilometers per hour, reset the onboard computer together with you, and naturally aim to observe the outcomes during the next 20 kilometers. How the fuel consumption develops, whether it increases again in steps of 5 or maybe even rises a bit less, we'll just have to wait and see. After 20 kilometers, as always, we have the next value. A great electric car typically comes equipped with an equally impressive sound system as standard. And whether the MG S5 EV has that as well, we naturally want to try that out with you. And let's play Simply Electric along with it. Not bad, right? Nice clear highs, huh?
A decent room sound as well, but what's still a little something missing here, don't you think so?
Subwoofer and bass.
Yes, especially since it's not a well-known sound style. At least we haven't come across anything significant yet. But I think that should suffice then.
Or to listen to podcasts also good. But if you're someone who's a bit into audio, you'll likely expect a little bit more from it, right? Exactly. We calculated the next consumption value with you. We drove 21 kilometers at 140 kilometers per hour, which, according to the onboard computer, means an average speed of 132 kilometers per hour and a consumption of 29 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers driven. Yes, once again, a noticeable increase here. There's absolutely no doubt about that at all. And yes, in the end, we can only show what the onboard computer has calculated here. It's not a real measurement under lab conditions or with specialized measuring devices. So I think we just have to take it exactly as it is presented. But an average speed of 140 kilometers per hour is probably something that the MGS5 EV driver won't achieve on their commute either.
Nah.
Because we know it ourselves, when we set the cruise control to 130, 140 kilometers per hour, the average speeds usually end up being around 100 to 110. 10 kilometers per hour. So for an electric compact SUV, that's definitely quite an ambitious target to aim for, no question about it. But now let's make a U-turn here on the A20 motorway and immediately drive back in the opposite direction again. 160 kilometers per hour. And let's just wait and see what comes out of it then.
Well, I'm curious.
Because I think with MG, it didn't display over 30 kilowatt hours. Or was that wrong?
29.9 it was, I believe, to be precise.
Let's see if we can actually come up with a proper result together with you guys here. We're driving at 160 kilometers per hour. I'll reset the onboard computer together with you, and we'll keep an eye on the consumption over the next 20 kilometers. Let's take some time to discuss the travel comfort in the MGS5 EV in detail. And for that, we've created a tool that has allowed us to compare vehicles with each other for over 5 years now. This tool is, of course, certified, organized, structured, calibrated, vaccinated, and I don't even know what else. That means, without a doubt, Stefan's pulpometer and consistently delivers solid, transparent, modest values across all test subjects. And do we also want to cruise on the highway today? How's the travel comfort with the MGS5 EV?
Yes. So overall, I find it positive. I like the seats. I'm sitting comfortably here. I would wish for a bit more side support. That's the only thing. And that I could also adjust my seat electronically.
That's my biggest wish. And I can't adjust the height.
But I always feel like I'm sitting way too high up. That's just not really my thing at all. Chassis-wise, we always tease the Chinese for making those wobbly, mushy cars that feel imprecise, unstable, and not very responsive. In the end, with such a really soft suspension, it's actually the complete opposite here now, I feel. It's nice and tight. It's even too firm at times, I think. Sometimes, especially when you hit things like bumps, manhole covers and such, it really gives you a good jolt. But overall, it's really a good thing.
Yeah, I can only agree with that. So MG really succeeded in creating a very tight and responsive suspension. Yeah, as Stefan mentioned, it might be a bit too firm for some people, potentially impacting the overall comfort level noticeably. A bit unusual perhaps for such a compact SUV that they managed to pull it off in such an impressive way. But in the end, that's what we Europeans want, and that's exactly what MG has delivered for us. Especially here on the highway, I think it works well. It's significantly more uncomfortable and stiffer on country roads with potholes and manhole covers than it is here on the highway. Here, the 2.73 meter wheelbase handles it quite well overall. You genuinely experience outstanding travel comfort here, especially when driving a bit faster, like we are now, averaging around 160 kilometers per hour on the road. The only downside might be that the MG Pilot, or rather the adaptive cruise control mounted, is not fixed at 160 kilometers per hour. That means, of course, I have to manually maintain 160 kilometers per hour with my very sensitively trained accelerator foot. But we've had that quite often before and we'll manage it again, right, Stefan? Right? And we also successfully managed to handle the last consumption value with the MGS5 EV model. 155 kilometers per hour average speed, 22.3 kilometers and 29.8 kilometers kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers driven. Yes, that is the maximum display we have already quoted for you from the other tested MG vehicles. Yes, and I would say you just evaluate. On one hand, that MG still hasn't made any improvements, even though everyone has clearly pointed it out multiple times.
I don't understand it.
And then, of course, feel free to assess the consumption and compare it in the subsequent tables with the other vehicles that were tested. I briefly went sport mode.
Come on, let's do stock speed now.
Yeah, even here in a slight curve, it easily goes up to 190, 191 kilometers per hour. And yeah, I have to say it handles that very, very neatly. We're still keeping it pretty tight and controlled here, but you still feel relatively secure, even though today, as always on our test track, we've got that familiar light breeze, which many of our viewers tend to really appreciate and enjoy quite a lot, as usual. Mention wind turbines, though it's also worth pointing out that they don't always run at maximum capacity or are sometimes turned off when there's an excess of electricity in the grid. We've already noticed that. So sure, a wind turbine is an indicator, but it doesn't always apply here in Mecklenburg because it's somehow also externally controlled. Now we really need to hit the brakes here. He's doing that really well.
Also staying nicely upright.
Nicely on track, a decent bend in it, because here comes 100 kilometers per hour and we absolutely don't want to exceed the speed limit. The 104th is coming to an end, and naturally we're aiming to accelerate through here using the 170 kilowatts of the electric motor on the rear axle, and let's see just how quickly it can regain its speed again. Sure, even with only 27% battery left, we'll repeat this right after the charging check, but it's smoothly going over 160 kilometers per hour here. Per hour, and of course we want to push it all the way to the top speed of 190 kilometers per hour. Here we have another nice sweeping right-hand curve, and now we finally hit 190 kilometers per hour. It's not a race car, of course, but with its curb weight of 1.8 tons plus the two of us, we're probably tipping over 2 tons. Still, it's enough to keep up with trains on the Autobahn, right?
Correct. And we've also got a few acceleration times to start with. From 80 to 120 in 4.98 seconds. From 100 to 160 in 380 seconds, 11.91 seconds. And from 100 to 180 in 20.78 seconds.
Yeah, those are all, I think, pretty standard figures for this specific vehicle class and the level of power it delivers. but especially on country roads and in the city, you have to admit, it's a lot of fun. You really feel that 350 pound-feet of torque. I'd say from 120 upwards, it kind of fades a bit, but I think it's very, very well and sufficiently powered for what it's designed to do. Maybe for someone living in the mountains or perhaps even occasionally. Then maybe go off-road again, perhaps someday in the future with all-wheel drive. Who knows, maybe MG has an X-Power version planned for later, right? What's your take on that?
I can totally imagine that.
Just like with the MG4, that would be pretty cool, right? Before we dive into the charging check, we've still got 20% macro left to explore the options here in the MG. So it has the intelligently powered battery heating, which means we naturally set our charging station as the destination so the car can prepare itself, and you have the option to either activate or deactivate that. Preconditioning the battery is crucial, especially to cool it down a bit in the summer after some intense driving, or of course to warm it up in the winter for optimal performance and efficiency. You also have the option to set up a reminder, so if the battery drops below -10 degrees, you'll receive a notification to activate the battery heater as well. But you can't do it manually, it's only handled intelligently, meaning the vehicle itself decides when to take the necessary action required. But that actually worked pretty well with the MG4 too, didn't it?
Yeah, that definitely made sense.
Still better than many EVs that don't include battery preconditioning, right?
Got that.
Additionally, you also have the vehicle to load function. That means if you ever want to park somewhere or use the car for car applications, you have the option to. You can also continuously draw up to 3.3 kilowatts directly from the battery by using the vehicle to load feature.
You reached your destination.
We've arrived at the Ionity rest stop in Minneland, and now we're going to quickly charge up the vehicle here with you. The battery level is at 10% state of charge. Charger number 3 is currently not working properly. But we're not driving into pole position at number 1, but into number 2. Right, Stefan?
Yeah, that's enough for now.
What's really great is that we naturally have a 360-degree camera system included in the luxury package here as well. You can see that very clearly, complete with guiding lines. You also have the option to switch over to the side views here, ensuring you don't scrape those thick, bold 18-inch wheels. And of course, you also have the option here to activate a full 180-degree mode for both the front and rear. That's a great feature in the luxury package. And when you look at the price difference between comfort and luxury, I believe I'd definitely choose luxury. A heat pump included, privacy glass, charging planning if it works, of course. 18-inch wheels included, and so on and so on.
Yeah, there's quite a bit going on there, I'd say.
The column also shows 10%, and he's slowly building up the charging peak. You can see it here. Step by step, he's now going beyond 40 kilowatts. His maximum charging peak is supposed to be 139 kilowatts. When we look at the charging time, we've seen a range of results, typically somewhere between 28 minutes and 31 minutes to go from 10 to 80%. Yeah, many of you keep asking me, hey Ollie, how do you really charge the cars on those long distance trips? And which tariff do you use for that? And honestly, I have to say, I'm using the free kilometers from InCharge. InCharge, you'll find it in your web browser or of course also in the app. And for over 5 years now, they've been our partner for free charging. You have the option to connect various charging cards with InCharge through affiliate links, online shopping, participating in challenges, or even by reviewing charging stations. So many ways to collect free kilometers, so we've already managed to charge more than 50,000 kilometers completely free of charge. If you're interested in InCharge, feel free to check it out in the video description. I've put a link to InCharge in there for you. Yeah, 133 kilowatts is showing here on the display, which is really hard to read, Ionity. Yeah, that would definitely need some cleaning or maybe even a replacement. We're already at 14% state of charge, and after 2 minutes, we've charged 2.5 kilowatt hours. And I'm quite optimistic that it can at least reach the factory's claimed peak power of 139 kilowatts. 138 kilowatt at 28% seems to be the maximum here. We've been charging for 5 minutes now, and a good 11.6 kilowatt hours have already gone back into the battery. I don't think it'll go any higher at this charge level. Now it's flickering a bit around 139, but usually at around 30%, most batteries tend to go down rather than up. It's pretty typical for the power curve to start dropping off once you get past that point. Yeah, you see, it's scratching it, and with that, Let's just say it has indeed reached it, and that's the essential foundation for fast charging. Actually hitting that maximum peak number is absolutely crucial for efficiency. I'd say let's take a walk around the car for those who haven't seen the review yet, so they can get a bit of an idea of what the MG S5 EV looks like from the outside. The charging break is the perfect opportunity to show the MG S5 EV's exterior once more, and MG has made it a very modern upgrade to the ZS EV. On one hand, up here with the specially attached tag, and below that separated, then the full LED headlights, which also feature a high and low beam function. Yes, we have a very, very beautiful dark grey exterior color in Andes grey metallic. We have the luxury variant, which also means 18-inch wheels on board with 255/55R 18102V, so the V stands more for aerodynamics and performance. From a design standpoint, it clearly focuses on performance as a priority, but ultimately we're talking about a compact electric SUV that still delivers a strong and unmistakable sporty presence.
Yes, it looks quite sharp.
We noticed a silver finish here, then chrome anodized in this area, glossy black down below, luxury privacy glass, the sills at the bottom, and plastic around the wheel arches again for that contrast. A different grey, so we actually have 3 different colors plus the polished surfaces on the rims, kind of like that on the car. One color would have been kind of cooler.
Way too much mixing there.
So I think as an all black, as a black beauty, it would also look really nice, wouldn't it? What do you think?
Auf jeden Fall, ja. Es wird schick aussehen.
The rear end is kind of defined by the LED taillights with the almost continuous light strip, only interrupted by the MG logo. We've shown you the 360-degree camera system, 453 liters of trunk space, folding the seats expands it to 1,441 liters, an optional roof load capacity of 75 kilograms, and an optional tow hitch offering a braked towing capacity of 750 kilograms and unfortunately only 30 kilograms of nose weight, which of course might be a bit too little for those who are particularly into bike rack sports and need more capacity. Feel free to share your thoughts down in the comments section. 50% after 13 minutes. We managed to add 26 kilowatt hours. Now it's just cruising along at 107 kilowatts. That's why, since these are kind of older values, there's still a bit of a 2019 vibe, back when we were all excited about hitting 100 kilowatts and more. Nowadays, some electric cars still charge over 200 kilowatts at 50%. Especially those now with the 800-volt systems and so on.
They cost 3 to 4 times more.
That has to be said, to be fair, and I would say with MG, it's not about the list price at all. It starts at 37,099 euros. Our test car, I think, was 44,099 euros plus Andes Grey. I'm not sure if it's extra, but leasing rates are good. The financing options are good.
Yeah.
The dealer network is solid, with master dealers now nationwide. And therefore, I think there's no real need to fixate on the list prices for electric cars. You just end up feeling bad and uneasy when converting it to Deutsche Mark. But simply check where the best offer is available, you know, in the areas of leasing and refinancing options. Yeah, friends, that's kind of what's been bugging me. We're at 59–60% here. He's currently cruising around at 81 kilowatts, and that naturally ends up making the overall charging time significantly longer than expected. And in the end, it's not about hitting that maximum charging peak of 139 kilowatts, which I wanted to clarify again, but about maintaining a consistently high average kilowatt charging rate. We like to check EV database because they always calculate from 10 to 80% how the average kilowatt figure actually stacks up. In their test, they achieved an average charging speed of 90 kilowatts for the 400-volt system of the MG S5 EV, maintaining an average of 90 kilowatts throughout the process. 2025 is kind of a bit disappointing then. I think it could have managed it in 24 minutes and would have surprised everyone. If you had just given the car a bit more charging capacity, well, not capacity, but average charging power, right?
Absolutely sure, he can do it. Just let him charge at 110.
Yeah, in the end, we're not engineers, so of course, we can't calculate guarantees on battery life and all that stuff. We're not a car manufacturer, we're just a YouTube channel that introduces you to the latest electric cars. And we have to be honest here, because this thing costs 44.9 plus the exterior color. For 49.9, you get a smart #5, which is much larger. With more space and the 800-volt technology charged at 417 kilowatts, I believe.
Ja.
Then, in just 15 minutes, it powered up a 100 kilowatt hour battery from 10 to 80%. So we're talking about 94 net kilowatt hours. This one here comes with 61.1 kilowatt hours. And there I naturally have to compare MG in terms of price performance, maybe even with the larger Smart number 5 and the slightly higher price, and see how it measures up, right? If you always think that way, it can't get any worse, can it?
Imagine it raining now.
Yeah, well, it's definitely windy enough here. Now we have 71%, 66 kilowatts. So below 50 kilowatts, I definitely disconnect.
Shall we that he holds up here?
Now seriously, he was really quick at first, hitting 50%, then 55%, but after that, he just dawdled around without much progress. And somehow the feeling that there's some kind of system or logic behind it, that at the beginning, fast charging is suggested, and then in the end, it somehow becomes sluggish, right? Yeah, it's like, I'll give you a lollipop, but if you want a second or third one, you know, back when we were kids, the parents would always say, you can't have it. So instead of just saying, hey, I got 6 lollipops cheap now. So now there's 6 lollipops, right? It's just a shame because ultimately I think we can get more people excited about electric mobility if we reduce charging times. And with that, more people might actually consider choosing the MG S5 EV. Of course, there are also some who say, my God, I honestly don't want it to charge up quite that quickly. Well, I'm actually fine with it taking over 30 minutes, even up to 40 minutes to charge, because then I can eat, grab a drink, go to the bathroom, and even squeeze in a quick power nap for myself. Then I can also get around to answering my emails. But I suppose those aren't the people who typically cover long distances frequently, right? So you're saying Diesel Dieter won't be convinced to switch to e-mobility here?
Petrol Pete definitely won't either. They're pretty much those hardcore petrol head speed freaks, you know what I mean?
They're likely standing back there for 5 minutes?
Right? They're at the gas station 5 minutes, grabbing a roll. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we've reached 80% now after 30 minutes, so it's sitting right within the range of 28 to 31 minutes. And we've replenished 47.26 kilowatt hours. It's cruising along now at 57 kilowatts, just taking its own sweet time. I mean, 30 minutes is fine, many do it too, but usually they have, with respect, probably even larger battery capacities by now.
Yeah.
So it's worth mentioning that 61.1 kilowatt hours net, which is already the long-range version here with the MG, isn't exactly groundbreaking either. So because of that, it could definitely charge a bit faster somehow. That would, I think, suit him very well indeed. And perhaps then Diesel Dieter and Petrol Burble might also decide to come along and join us, don't you think?
Right.
What do you guys think? Feel free to write it in the comments. On the way to the highway, we of course want to measure his acceleration again. And here, let's accelerate smoothly with 80% state of charge. It also feels a bit more effortless and responsive, you know? Here it's nicely going up to 150 kilometers per hour. Yeah, we're now at 170 kilometers per hour. Top speed is, as I said, 190 kilometers per hour. And of course, they reach it effortlessly. We effortlessly achieve the measured values over the Draghi as well, and you can kindly share those numbers with our viewers.
I'd be happy to. So we have 60 to 100 in 3.24, 80 to 120 in 384.39, from 100 to 160 in 10.13, and from 100 to 180, 180 in 16.21.
And with that, I do believe it's slightly quicker when compared to the setup with the lower stance.
It's even 4 seconds.
But we frequently get feedback from viewers who criticize us for measuring such values when using low octane levels. I think it's actually a good thing because we've taken this constructive criticism seriously and are now remeasuring it at higher octane levels for better accuracy. And that way we can move forward together as a community to establish solid reference values, because after all, there's always someone who accelerates through at lower octane levels, isn't there?
Right, of course. They're eager to see how quickly they can get from A to B.
Definitely. And with that, let's now proceed to reach the final overall conclusion with the MGS5 EV. From the review and today's consumption drive with the charging check, I already said in the first video, I'm thrilled with the design. It looks fresh, looks modern, but it also has a design that I think can appeal to every man and woman out there. And that's always important when you're building a car, so that it doesn't go out of style quickly or perhaps overplay, and then maybe it opens up new customer circles. MG has done this well. There's plenty of space in the car, particularly in the back. As we demonstrated during the seat test, it's actually quite comfortable for traveling, even with 4 adults on board, which is impressive. And that in a vehicle size at 4.46 meters still matches the compact class. Swing, which is quite remarkable. Yes, we noticed the infotainment system still needs some enhancements. The response time could be faster, and we couldn't find the charging planner feature anywhere. Mark, even though we searched through everything, it could still be a user error or might need a small software update. The car is relatively new to the market, and its fuel efficiency at 100 kilometers per hour really stands out to me. At 120 kilometers per hour, it felt a bit SUV typical, you could say.
Yeah,
that's the positive way to describe it. And then above 140 kilometers per hour. Average speed, everything average speed, it was already pretty ambitious. We did a charging check, half an hour, 10 to 80%. That's, let's say, kind of the popular standard for the 400 volt class.
That was within the normal average range at the moment.
To be fair, you have to say that in similar price segments, especially when I think about, I totally forgot, the Xpeng G6, right, which will also be on our channel soon, namely the facelift update, which can charge over 450 kilowatts. It starts, by the way, at mid 40,000 euros and is even bigger. So it actually had a vehicle length of 4.70 meters, so practically one size larger, same price, 800 volt technology, and charging is noticeably much faster, to be precise.
Definitely, it's more about locating a charger that delivers 450 kilowatts.
That, of course, is the next issue, because the Ionity we had there can only deliver a maximum of 350 kilowatts. Otherwise, he probably just dawdles with a 150 kilowatt charger, assuming he even has one. There are indeed some manufacturers who now want to forgo it, meaning they don't want to integrate a 400 volt charging system anymore. But in the end, you'll always go with what suits your taste, your preference, and ultimately, and this is actually what I wanted to get to, it comes down to the leasing and financing terms, which can become your price-conscious brand new electric SUV, your perfect electric vehicle. And I'll tell you this, MG is practically unbeatable. The leasing and financing deals they've rolled out for the MG4 and other vehicles are absolutely unbeatable right now.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that was huge. They managed to achieve some seriously impressive registration numbers. And I could imagine that he targets the supposedly fast chargers because there are also many who can't or don't want to charge that quickly, where he just zooms by. Just like that over the leasing rate and over the financing terms. That's why I can give you the tip. Go to the MG dealer of your choice. Over 100 are in Germany now. Test drive it, form your own opinion. Let him handle the calculations for you, because I could imagine that the colleagues there might have a real treat in store for you, something worth checking out. And with that, we've already arrived at the conclusion of today's video featuring the MG S5 EV. And of course, I'd be happy if you'd share your thoughts in the comments about this video, as well as both videos regarding this vehicle. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and take a moment to check if you're part of the Einfacher elektrisch community. We'd really love your support with a subscription. It's for you. Free for us, a huge help, but growing the channel a little more. We're so close to the 50,000 mark, and of course, we want to reach that at least this year. I say thank you so much for watching, stay healthy, and see you soon. Your Ollie and Stefan. Now, the MG in this price range can do without half closures. All really awesome. They've simply integrated the technology into the mirrors, the windows, and the bodywork. And that's where you can really see the innovation in action, how unnecessary something like a shark lock can actually be.